What if the truth was that you're greater than you think, more powerful than you know, more unlimited than you could ever dream, that you are the creator of your life? If you believe that to be the truth, then you have to believe in yourself.
New York Times best-selling author
and pioneer in merging science and spirituality.
An expert in helping demystify the mystical.
So let's give it up one more time for Dr. Joe Dispenza.
But there is another way to create where you don't have to do so much. Those are laws that transcend just typical Newtonian laws. And what if you were to feel the emotion of the future before it happened every single day? And now you start believing more that you're the creator of your reality instead of the victim of your reality, and that's the truth. And you cannot experience that truth unless you step in the realm of creation. If you started doing it, you could actually shorten the distance between the thought of what you want and the experience of having it. And all of a sudden, you're no longer going anywhere to do it. It's kind of coming to you. And so then you fall in that zone, you fall into that flow, and now you're gonna wanna feel that feeling more than you're gonna wanna feel your victimization. And that's when you no longer belong to your past, that's when you belong to your future.
If we could start with, you mentioned this is the energy that heals, I think, when you started, right? You said this is the energy that heals, the people are bringing this energy. Why do you think so many people lack the energy to create the vision, the dream that they want? Is it something they're missing? Is it something they don't have access to? Or they lack that energy that heals and draws to them their dreams?
I think that, we live in chronic disbelief. What if the truth was that you're greater than you think, more powerful than you know, more unlimited than you could ever dream? If that was the truth, that you are the creator of your life, you have to start. If you believe that to be the truth, then you have to believe in yourself. And your belief in yourself must be earned. It must be earned. And the only way that we can believe in a future is when we feel the emotion associated with it. Because if you feel the emotion associated with it, your body is your unconscious mind. It's so objective, it does not know the difference between the real life experience that's creating that emotion and the emotion that you're creating by thought alone. And so you're giving your body a taste emotionally of the future. And the stronger the emotion you feel, the more you remember that future. And you literally are embossing the circuitry for you to believe in it more. So if we default and become the victim of our life, and we say that some person or some circumstance or some condition is causing me to feel this way and to think this way, the moment we become angry or frustrated or guilty or unworthy or afraid or anxious, we can't believe in that future any longer. Those emotions are associated with past memories. And those emotions cause us to behave as if we were in our past, make choices that are equal to our past, and believe in our past. And more people believe in their past than they believe in their future. And it's so much easier to forget your vision of the future than to remember it. And so if that's the truth, then if you understood that this emotion that you're feeling is really a creative emotion, living in fear and living in anger and living in hostility and hatred and judgment and resentment, that has nothing to do with your future. It has everything to do with the past. And so the problem is that we get addicted to those emotions that keep us connected to the past, and there's a story that goes with that past. And so many people believe in that story, and why not believe in a different story? And it usually takes crisis or trauma or disease or diagnosis or loss for people to finally make up their mind to change. But that default that takes place so seamlessly when we feel the emotions of our past causes us to think the same way, to act the same way, and to feel the same way. And how you think, how you act, and how you feel is called your personality. And your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. That's it. So the present personality who's sitting here today called you has created the present personal reality called your life. That's the truth. So if you wanted to create a new personal reality, a new life, you would have to change your personality. And the first step in that is becoming conscious of your unconscious thoughts, those thoughts that say, I can't, it's too hard, I'll never change, it's my ex's fault, it's a, whatever,
It's always the X.
Or if you really truly wanted to be a happy person, you would have to stop complaining. You would have to stop blaming, you'd have to stop allowing your environment to control how you're feeling and thinking. And if you truly wanted to become a new personality, you would have to decide that the emotion of lack cannot belong in an abundant person. Oh, this is where the rubber hits the road now. Because how could you believe in a future that you haven't seen yet? And the end product of an experience in three-dimensional reality is called an emotion. And so most people wait for their wealth to feel abundant. They're waiting for their new relationship to feel love. They're waiting for their success to feel empowerment. They're waiting for their healing to feel wholeness or gratitude. That's the old model of reality. So then you got to trade that emotion of your past, and that story's got to go with it. And when you overcome your emotions, you master your creations. And that's freeing the body from the past. So the person who wants to become wealthy, they got to romance wealth.
Romance it.
They have to romance it. And you have to start thinking about how a wealthy person would think, how a wealthy person would act, how a wealthy person would feel. And you would have to become that personality. And that personality really should begin to create some change in your personal reality. The synchronicities that are not just parking spaces, not that stuff. But the bigger stuff that would stretch your belief so that when you see the synchronicity, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I created that. Is that possible that I actually created that? Now you start believing more that you're the creator of your reality instead of the victim of your reality. And that's the truth. And you cannot experience that truth unless you step in the realm of creation. And in order for you to arrive at that wealth, you have to make a very clear decision that that person who wants the wealth and who is in lack of having it is going to have to make a lot of changes to finally run into that goal or vision of their wealth. You can't create a new personal reality as the same personality. You got to become someone else. That means you got to give up some aspect of those unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that are programmed because we do them so much and think that way. And that's the hard part of change. And people do the work. I want to be really clear. They don't do the meditations to heal. They do the meditations to change. And understand that when I change, my body will change. My life will change. That's the experiment they're involved in. So this energy, this feeling that you have, the fundamental question is when you leave this place, can you take it with you every day? Could you remember this feeling and could you bring it up on your own? Now you're becoming the creator of your life because now you'll believe more in that future and less in your past. And then you'll default just like we all do, but how many times do you have to forget until you stop forgetting and start remembering? That's called the moment of change. And that's catching yourself from defaulting seamlessly back to that old personality that has been programmed for us to be victims. That if you say to someone, why are you so unhappy? Why are you so mad? Why are you so angry? Oh, it's that person, it's that circumstance that's causing me to feel this way and think this way. Well, that's an unconscious program. A person is saying that someone in their outer world or some condition is controlling. It's controlling their feelings, controlling their thoughts. Anything that's controlling us, we're victims to. And that's got to change. So then, to overcome victimization is worth more than all the wealth in the world. Because that's exactly what creates the wealth. That's exactly what creates the health. It's the overcoming process. that is the becoming process, and that's how you arrive at that vision. And this energy is the energy that takes you there. And you got to be able to bring that up on your own. That means you got to come out of your resting state. And that when coming out of your resting state and not allowing or waiting for someone or something to do it for you, but doing it on your own, wow, there's sovereignty and there's empowerment in that. That's how any person arrives at their dream. They just don't let their energy drop. And if they do, they get back into that state again. And they earn the belief in themselves.
I like to ask, kind of quirky questions for myself, but I think some people like them. First off, what are the emotions of lack so that people can make a distinction and say, I don't think about lack, I'm not in lack, but maybe they are based on certain emotions. So what are the emotions that cause us to feel in our bodies lacking as opposed to abundant? And caveat, how much of those lacking emotions can we have on a daily basis and still be abundant?
Woo! That's a good question.
You know what I mean? Is it 50% victimhood and we're still going to be good? Is it angry 20% of the time? Is it how much wiggle room can we give ourselves grace and still, I'm still going to be able to get my dream? So what are the emotions of lack and how much time can we really allow ourselves to be in a state of frustration or sadness and still be abundant?
Yeah, I got it. But we create based on lack. We create based on separation. You see the sports car, you see the wardrobe, you see the scene, you see the vacation, and you see that experience that you want. Your brain naturally goes, oh God, that would be so wonderful to be in that reality, to be in that future. Based on the lack of not having it, in the plane of duality and separation, the lack causes us to dream about having it.
Mm-hmm.
So the natural thing is to dream of a new possibility based on your understanding that you don't have that experience yet. You understand?
Yes.
So then now, that vision of that future, the brain naturally creates. For the passionate person, that vision where they're seeing that future, they put themselves in that future. And when they do that, they feel the emotion of that future. And they're actually doing that by thought alone. So once they feel the feeling of that future, they can believe in that future because they felt it.
Interesting.
Right? And they'll tell you there's nobody or no one or no circumstances. I know that I could create that. And you've all done it. Everybody in this room has done something great. And you kept that vision alive in your mind, and you got your behaviors to match your intentions. You got your actions equal to your thoughts. You got your mind and body working together. You stopped thinking certain thoughts like, I can't, it's too hard, I don't feel like it, I'll never change. You had to make different choices, and the hardest part about change is not making the same choices the day before, and that means you're going to get uncomfortable. You stop doing the same things, the same habits, sitting on the couch, whatever it was. You didn't have time to complain, that stuff. You start staying away from the experiences with certain people and certain circumstances. You didn't want to live that anymore. And you had to really get beyond your emotional feelings and do it anyway. And we do this all the time. And when, then you run, and all of a sudden the synchronicities start to happen. Everybody's experienced this. And the next thing you know, the experience occurs and you feel the emotion from that experience. And it takes away the lack or separation from not having it. So the emotion is the end product of the experience in three-dimensional reality.
Say it again. The emotion is what?
The end product of the experience. It's the payoff. The payoff from the experience, having the experience, is the emotion that is the consequence of the experience. And that emotion is all the sensory information that you're perceiving, everything you're seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and feeling. All that information is rushing back to your brain in jungles of neurons or organizing into networks. And when they string into place, another part of the brain called the chemical brain The limbic brain, the emotional brain, begins to make chemicals to produce that emotion. And that emotion then takes away the lack. And now you say, I created that, and then you go to the next one. Now you can get really good at doing this. You could study, you could get schooled, you can get coached, you can learn from your mistakes, you could get disciplined, and you can accumulate more things. You can get better at doing that. But there is another way to create where you don't have to do so much. And those are laws that transcend just typical Newtonian laws. And what if you were to feel the emotion of the future before it happened every single day? Remember that feeling, and that feeling was for your heart to fall in love with your life, to fall in love with your vision. You'd have to awaken that heart. If you could do that and marry that with the vision of your future, I promise you it'll be easier to make choices to step into that future. I guarantee you, you'll believe in it and do things to advance yourself into that future, and you step right into it. So then, if it doesn't happen when we want it to happen, you know what I mean? Like people stop me and they say, well, I've been creating my reality for 3 days and nothing happened. And I say to them, you're not that good. Look, I don't know what else to tell you. You're not that good. Or they'll say, how come I'm not living in Mallorca with my 2 dogs and a lover? I'm like, because the person who's living in Mallorca looks nothing like you. Like, that's not what the person looks like. So when it doesn't happen, the lack becomes greater.
And then what do we
And
do?
because lack is separation, and separation is based on time. And so when you imagine that vision of your future, you're putting your attention in a future reality. You have one point of consciousness, that's your future, and you are making the choice from this point of consciousness that that's where you want to go. And the distance between those two is called time. So time is based on lack or separation. Are you with me?
Yes.
And when it doesn't happen, we start to feel more lack and more separation, so we start to force outcomes.
So we try harder.
Try harder, we manipulate, we compete, we fight. Because trying is what you do when you're in lack. And so the person's living in separation their whole entire life, waiting for the event to occur to take away the feeling of not having it. And it could be their whole entire life.
Wow.
And that becomes a program. So then you ask them, why are you this way? Well, because life isn't working for me. That's the belief that they have.
It's unfair.
And they'll have a whole story that goes along with it. So then, if you could fall in love with your future, and the heart produces a very strong magnetic signature, and you get your brain coherent and working really well, that intention that you have has a signal in the field. And we've measured this. And so then if you could begin to experiment by changing your energy, could it change my life? That's the experiment. I'm just curious. If you started doing it, that you could actually shorten the distance between the thought of what you want and the experience of having it. And all of a sudden, you're no longer going anywhere to do it. It's kind of coming to you. Now, if you experiment like that and then you are successful at it and you start seeing the synchronicities, I guarantee you, you're going to keep it up.
Yes.
I guarantee you it's not going to be like, oh, God, I got to go fall in love with my future now. It's not going to be like that. You're going to be like, whoa, like it's happening, like whatever that is, that I don't know what it is, but you're changing your energy. And so to become a creator in your life and truly practice it, if you're feeling the feeling of your future, you can't look for it. How could you look for it if you feel like it already happened? And we cannot attract anything in our life that we feel separate from. And that means you got to maintain that modified state of mind and body to keep your vision alive. And if you do, the experiment should be, hey, I'm doing this to experiment. Is it the truth? I'm doing it for the truth, to take the belief and actually behave that way to ultimately become the creator of my life. And so that you fall in that zone, you fall into that flow. And now you're gonna want to feel that feeling more than you're gonna want to feel your victimization. And that's when you no longer belong to your past. That's when you belong to your future.
But how angry can we be every day
Oh yeah, we didn't get to that yet.
and still be abundant? How
Well,
much
listen.
can we fall from grace?
Yeah. Abundance is just one experience in the infinite number of experiences I believe that we could have as creators. And people they just forget all the wonderful things they did or became when they created that abundance, and they went unconscious.
Why do we forget what we've created in our past? All the things we've accomplished and achieved. Why is it so easy to forget? Man, I've already accomplished so many things that were hard. I learned so many things. Why do we forget that?
All right, let me answer this question though. But you were asking me about how
Yes,
can we
yeah.
be angry and
Yes.
still be abundant.
Tie that at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could be angry and be an abundant person.
You can be.
You certainly can.
All day angry?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you can do that if you want. And you can just be unhappy your whole entire life.
Yeah.
And I've sat with billionaires. I've sat with them, and you know what they say to me? They say, I've said it more than once. We are miserable. We are in agony. You know why? Because they can't be present enough to enjoy a sunset, even though they're on a yacht. They can't be present enough to enjoy a great meal. They just can't be present with their families. They can't be present. And so, like, that's not the life you want. What you want, abundant people want to be free.
Yes.
That's what they really want. Free to do it, right? And really, if your model of abundance is that you have so much more than you need, that you would give it away. That would be an abundant person, yes or no?
Yes.
And so your experience of abundance in the experiment called life can be way more than being an angry, abundant person. Yes or no?
Yeah.
So then what? So you develop that skill of abundance, but there are certain skills and habits and choices and character that you create, and you take that with you. You take that with you to the next dream. If you're not being defined by a vision of your future, then you're left to the memories of your past, and you'll be predictable in your life. And wow, it's so much easier to forget that vision than to remember. That means you got to make time to remember it. You got to make time to decide who you're no longer going to be, and you got to make time for who you are going to be. And so the experiment can continue, and you should be facing adversity.
We should be.
You should be facing adversity in the midst of change.
It shouldn't be easy.
Should be earned. Should be earned.
Should be earned.
Because that means you put your time in. And that means that this is how greatness is created, when you show up to create when you don't feel like it. When you sit with yourself and not allow your mind to go to the past and all the problems and all the things, and instruct your mind to go to that vision of the future, that's a victory.
Come on.
That is the overcoming process. We discovered that when you're sitting with yourself and you go past the point where you would normally stop because of your disbelief, you go past that point, that's when the brain changes the most. That's when you're stepping into the unknown.
What does that moment look like for people? Like, what is that?
That moment looks like I want to quit. That moment looks like I want to give up. That's the end of their emotional belief. But if you show up to be a creator in spite of those voices, in spite of the mismanagement of your attention and energy and not having enough time, or feeling, something happened in your day and it caused you to not want to create, the days that you show up anyway, and you remember that's the belief in your future, and that's your passion, you will earn that future. And that is the overcoming process that allows you to become anything, abundant or healthy or whatever it is that people want.
What will ensure that we don't earn our future dreams?
I think people get in the habit of no longer believing in themselves. I think it's a habit because they listen to those voices, they sit and they can't settle their emotions down. And they get up from their inner work believing less in their future instead of more in their future. And the people who actually sit and say, I'm not getting up until I remember my future, and I'm going to become that very person today. A person who does that, they get up that way, they believe in their future more. So they have to overcome some aspect of themselves in order to do that, and it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much, but to the materialist who's waiting for their life to change to feel joy, you're missing out on a lot of life. Why wouldn't you want to teach your body emotionally what joy feels like so that you can feel that way? Nobody's going to make you feel that way. Oh, you should make you happy. Imagine that. And I swear to you, people in your life will wonder what medication you're on. Just because you're not showing up is the memory they have of you. You're out of phase. That's such power.
Say that part one more time.
You're not showing up as the memory they have of you. Something's different, like, what? Are you getting happy without me? What? So, we don't see reality how it is. We see reality how we are. That's really the truth. So you have to think about what thoughts you do want to fire and wire in your brain, and a belief is just a thought you keep thinking over and over again. And you keep with intention and with attention, keep installing the circuitry to remember to think that way. I swear your biology will be mapped as a thought. That would be the new voice in your head that said you can.
But don't our thoughts just kind of come to us? We don't have control over them. We can't change them. Don't they just, I've been hearing the same negative story over and over. I can't change that, can I?
Yeah, when does that story end? Like when? If not now, when? Like, 50% of that story, according to the research on memory, 50% of it isn't even the truth. Person is reliving a miserable life they never even had.
Wow.
All to
We've imagined it. We've created an imagination.
all to reaffirm their addiction to that emotion connected to the belief that they can't change. That's what they're committed to. So it takes an enormous amount of energy, an enormous amount of awareness to change. And it is an ongoing process.
You said something that sounded crazy. You said there's something, I don't know if,
One thing?
yeah, one thing. You said something that sounded, I don't know if people caught it. You said, remember the future. You said, start remembering the future. But can't you only remember the past? How do you remember something that hasn't happened?
So the stronger the emotion that we feel to some problem, some condition in our life, or some experience, the more altered we feel inside of us, the more change we have inside of us, the more it captures the brain's attention. And the brain freezes a frame or a series of frames, and that's called the memory. And the stronger the emotion, the more we remember where we were on 9/11. You remember all those things in your life that had a high emotional quotient.
Yeah.
So the trauma then, the betrayal, the incident of problem, whatever it is, has a strong emotion that causes us to keep remembering it. And the person who's reviewing the trauma in their mind is producing the same chemistry for their body. As they relive the memory, they're feeling the feeling of that event. And it's that thought and that feeling, it's that image, that's emotions, that stimulus, that's response, that's conditioning the body to become the mind of that emotion. Now the body's literally in the past. The trauma is no longer in the brain, the trauma is now in the body.
It's like real now.
Now it's changed their state of being. And there's great research, just as an example, to say that trauma changes the brain and body without a doubt. So then, theoretically then, could you come out of your resting state and raise your energy emotionally to a point that it's greater than the betrayal or the trauma? If you could do that really well and keep practicing falling in love with your future, the stronger the emotion you feel, the more you remember your future. And to the brain, it's exactly the same. The brain is literally being branded by that image, and the brain does not know the difference in that moment between the real life experience and the experience that you're having in your mind.
Now, before you go on, this is a very open-minded audience, right? Most people have heard you say this before. Most people believe in this stuff. There's probably a few people that maybe have never heard this, or maybe it's their first time here, and they're thinking, this just seems a little too woo-woo. Like,
Am I going too woo-woo on you guys?
You know, this just seems a little, I don't know, like, how do we, I mean, is there really research and science on this, or are you just making this up? Like, how do we know that you can remember the future feeling of an event that hasn't even happened and bring it to...
What would be the emotion you would feel if your future happened? What would be that emotion? Tell me.
Of your greatest dream. Of your greatest dream.
Yeah, it would be an enormous amount of gratitude to be alive.
Yes.
Would it not? Would it be like you would be so, I was going to say a cuss word, so grateful. You'd be so incredibly grateful for your life.
Yes.
And pro-social networks turn on and we bond and move together and the moment is more rich. So then the emotional signature of gratitude is that something wonderful just happened to you.
Yes.
Or something wonderful is happening to you in the moment. So gratitude in its sense emotionally is the ultimate state of receiving.
Gratitude.
The emotional signature is receiving. So all you got to do is get that heart of yours open and fall in love with your future. And how would you feel if it happened? You would feel in love with life. You would feel empowered. You would feel unlimited. You would feel more whole. Practice feeling those emotions. And that's it. And we discovered that when people do this really well, in 7 days, their biology completely changes. Everything changes. Their brain works better. Their heart works better. For days after the event, the default mode in the brain that causes us to switch back to the old personality shuts off. So our data shows your microbiome changes in 7 days without changing your diet or your gluten or your vegan or your probiotic. Changed without all of that. Changed without all of that in 7 days. Person's making chemicals that suppress cancer growth. They're making chemicals that cause viruses, dangerous ones, they're impossible to enter the cell. That's what our data shows. Makes endogenous opioids, pain-relieving chemicals, 100% of the population. Makes chemicals that cause neurogenesis in neurons in the brain. Causes breast milk to be better and heals wounds and scars. The biology of the person is changing. The biology of the person looks like they're living in a whole new life. And that's when they return back into their life in the same environment and the same circumstances, thinking differently, acting differently, feeling differently, independent of their outer world. And the experiment is, my life should change. Why else would I do it? Why else would I do it?
Why is it so hard for us to say, my life's like 70% pretty good, but it's not like exactly what I want? Why is it so hard to make a change then, rather than when there's a trauma, a breakdown, a breakup, a near life or death incident? Why is it so hard to change when things are pretty good? I'm doing pretty good. I've got a good job. I've got a good, marriage is pretty good.
Yeah,
My health is, I'm only 40 pounds overweight. It's okay. Like, why is it hard to say, let's move into something different? Why is it that much harder when things are good to change?
because it takes crisis for most people to change. It's got to be so uncomfortable that nothing's making that feeling go away. That's what most people wait for. And yet, you don't have to wait for that. You actually could say, I want to be defined by a vision of the future every day. That's what I want. But for most people, it takes that crisis or that something where all of a sudden they can see themselves for the first time. Nothing's making that feeling go away, and they don't feel like themselves. And they can see how they thought. They can notice how they were acting. They can feel how they spent their whole life feeling, and they objectify their subjective self. They become conscious of their unconscious self. So for most people, then it takes that person or that circumstance or that condition to finally make up their mind to change.
For me-
And the last part about that is for the person who's not changing, they're not choosing. They're just comfortable in the known. They're just comfortable being in the known. And the unknown is when you're at your best, because there's uncertainty, there's unpredictability, there's chaos. That's the energy that you have to organize to create with. And if you react and you respond and you do all of that, you're caught up in the chaos, and you're thinking, acting, feeling equal to the environment. Your personal reality is creating your personality now. Your environment is controlling the way you think and feel. And as a program, we got to be able to turn that around.
The thing that's helped me, maybe you have a better explanation for what could help trigger the energy and momentum for change when life is good. The thing that's worked for me really well is really having a vision of a future that I don't have yet, that I dream and desire in a big way, that is a fulfilling vision of the future for me. That's because life is usually pretty good for me, unless it's not, and then it's either tragedy, then it's like, okay, I need to completely go to therapy every single day and start transforming and do whatever it takes to finally heal. Or it's like, God, there's something like in my heart that I haven't lived yet in terms of a vision that's greater for myself, that I feel like I'm supposed to be living, that's somewhere that I want to draw in. That is the only time, besides tragedy or trauma, where I'm like, I will be as disciplined as possible. I'll overcome all negative thoughts. I'll do whatever it takes, because it's so big that it demands a new way of being. It demands new behaviors, disciplines, thoughts, emotions. It demands it. It's so big, I have to become different. Like, getting to this venue is so much bigger than what I've done before. We had to do things differently. I can't keep doing the comfortable same things. All these different things. I had to become someone different. So I don't know if there's anything else besides that you would recommend or that you're aware of, but for me, it's having that dream or vision so much bigger that it demands me to become different.
Yeah, I think the highest form of motivation is mission motivation. It's purpose motivation, it's duty motivation. When you have a vision that is big, like in some way selfless, to change people, to change the world, to do something, that is the highest form of motivation, because it's the most selfless form, and we're wired to be selfless. And then the next form of motivation is called personal conviction motivation. Like, I'm going to do this because I said I'm going to do it. And a lot of people who are motivated have that kind of motivation, but people who have kind of that mission and duty motivation will naturally have personal conviction.
Yes.
Then there's that next form of motivation called ethics motivation or morality-based motivation, and that's based on good and bad, right and wrong, heaven and hell. You know the story. It's ethics and morality, and it's not the highest form of motivation, but it does motivate people. But people who have a very high purpose and have personal conviction will naturally have a common sense of ethics and morality. They'll just kind of fall right in line. And then there's that kind of self-aggrandizement, need for recognition and popularity and fame and all that stuff. That's not a very high form of motivation. It requires a lot. But people who have that vision, who have personal conviction, have that ethics and morality, naturally get the attention, naturally get the recognition. The science says the lowest form, the data, the research shows the lowest form is, not my research, just research in general, the lowest form is money motivation because it's the most selfish form of motivation, and that very likely doesn't have any payoff for a lot of people in the end. And so you have that vision, you have that mission, you have that big thing in your mind, and yeah, you got to make a lot of changes and do things differently if you're going to expand your vision. It's got to be upgraded, right? And so a person who's on the journey in the process of discovery to be the creator will always want to step out of the comfort zone of the known and try something out new in the unknown. And if you believe in yourself and it all lines up, it actually works. And then you, from this experience, you can become aware of possibilities you were never aware of before, unless you had the experience. So you can dream bigger now. You know, it could be what is my next vision?
Right, right.
It can go on forever, in fact.
You mentioned money for a moment there. You know, I think a lot of people, we live in a material world where money is needed. And I think a lot of people here want to figure out ways to make more money in their life. They probably feel more options, more flexibility, freedom from that money. But I don't think this is like a money-hungry community, but I think we all probably are striving to increase our income. How can we have a vision towards a money goal without it making us feel separate or being a lower motivation? Like, how do we say, yeah, I want to make more money. I want more money. I want more financial freedom. But you said it was like a lower motivation level. How do we marry that to something greater so it's not just money, money, money,
Yeah.
but the money also comes?
Yeah, get really good at doing something. Just get really, really, really good at doing one thing. Do it really, really well. Whatever you do that you love to do and you do really well, it'll be valued. And just make something of value, make something valuable to you. And values are being lost in our world right now. So I don't know. I think there's nothing wrong with money. I mean, but if you have a belief that money's bad, you're gonna have to overcome that. But I think there's anything wrong with having wealth, or it's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's just an experience that you want to have. And people who do manifest that kind of abundance, the next thing they do, as I said, is they want to make a difference.
Yes.
They want to give in some way. They reach that level, and now there's another level for them.
I don't know if anyone here has experienced this or feels this right now, or if everyone feels completely peaceful around money conversations or having money or not having money. But if for whatever reason, someone in the audience feels an amount of stress with money, they feel like they don't have enough, they feel anxious every time they get it, they never want to spend it, they're always counting it, it's just an anxious feeling. It doesn't feel good. It feels good when they get it, but then they're scared. How can someone have a new emotion towards money when it comes, when it goes, when it's not coming, when it's an abundance?
Yeah, you got to upgrade your model. I mean, you got to upgrade your understanding about money. I mean, and money is a relationship, and have a great relationship with money. Just like you have a great relationship with anything, have a great relationship with money, and have it just be the side effect of your values. Have it be the side effect of who you are. And yeah, and you'll have to put in time. So then a wealthy person then would never feel lack. That's just unless they really, really want to. But the person who's has the money or worried about spending it, I'm certain it's not money. I'm certain it's the emotion they're addicted to, and they're using that money situation to reaffirm their addiction to that emotion. And they're becoming addicted to the life they don't even like, right? And so that's a mismanagement of attention and energy. So that they have to upgrade their knowledge base. And so you want to become wealthy? Read a book on a wealthy person, someone who became wealthy.
Say it again, really what?
Read a book.
Oh, yeah.
Read a book. Read a book. Does anybody read books? Actually, read a book on a wealthy person and memorize the characteristics of how they became, all the failures they had, all the losses. That should be what inspires you to become wealthy. They became wealthy. I remember sitting with a very wealthy man in Manhattan, Harvard grad. I tutored his kids. He was really out of the box dude. And he was super wealthy. And I was late for this lunch, and I was like, in the cab, and I jumped out of the cab, and I just started walking. And he was eating a hamburger. And he was waiting, and I was late, and he was hungry, so he was eating, and I walked in, and he said, "I got you a salad." And he was chewing his hamburger, and he said to me, while with his mouth full of food, "Today I lost everything I own." And I'm just like, and he looked at me like really shocked, and he's like, "What? Will you eat? I am wealth. What are you talking about? I'll make it back in a few days." Didn't mean anything.
Wow.
He understood how to do it. It wasn't a loss for him, it was a lesson. He just was going back in the game again, and of course he did. It was like, he did it again. Wow, that's a great character trait to be that kind of example for your peers or your children. I mean, it's a great example.
Wow. He said, "I am wealth."
He said, "I am." He looked at me, I was shocked.
Because most people would be stressed or freaking out or on the phone or frantic.
He said, "I am wealth." Like, I know how to do this. I know how to do it.
I mean, what about people that lose it all that don't know how to do it?
Yeah, of course.
They didn't have the wealth. I lost my $1,000. That's all I had. How do they say I am wealth? Like,
Yeah, well,
nothing.
it is an interesting time to be alive, no? It's a really interesting time to be alive. There's just a lot of things happening, So how do you stay out of survival?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the question.
Stay out of it.
How do you stay out of survival? Because living in stress is living in survival. And stress is created when you can't predict something, you can't control something, or you have the perception that something's going to get worse. And there's an alarm system that immediately is built into our biology that causes us to get prepared for that threat or that danger. And that arousal then is an awakening, and the brain goes into the super alert state. And when we're in that state, now all of our attention is on our body, all of our attention is on our environment, all of our attention is on time, separation, right? So
We start to narrow our focus.
now we got to play by the rules of Newtonian physics, and that means you got to try harder, you got to work harder, you got to do something, you got to cheat, you got to steal, you got to do whatever a person does when they're in survival to take away the lack of what they're not having. And it could be anything for people, and it explains a lot of human behavior, because in that state of stress, in that state of survival, nobody's important but you.
Mm-hmm.
You become very self-involved, very self-indulgent. It's all about self. And then there's a story that goes along with that. There's no easy answer for the person who's lost everything except get over the emotion. Because if you can't get over the emotion, you can't get past that problem. And justified or not, valid or not, the only person those chemicals, those emotions are hurting are you. And it's dysregulating your autonomic nervous system. And people become addicted to the arousal of those emotions. And just like anything, you can have a bad trip or an overdose, and you could actually knock your brain and body out of balance just by thinking. Literally, you become addicted to your own thoughts. And the long-term effects of that push the genetic buttons that create disease.
So thinking influences our genetics, which could either create disease or could create healing.
That's exactly what we discovered. We discovered that if you teach a person how to stop thinking that way and producing those feelings, you're no longer weakening the body by your own thinking.
How weak are we making our bodies with low-level thinking? How much does it actually impact us biologically?
I don't know what low-level thinking is, but I can tell you that the emotions that are associated,
Not abundant thinking, stressed thinking.
Yeah,
anxiousness.
those emotions that you're feeling, like anger and aggression and frustration and impatience and fear and anxiety and resentment and jealousy and envy and insecurity, guilt and shame, hopelessness, powerlessness. All of those emotions are the emotions that are derived from the hormones of stress. The biological effects keep every cell in the body in an emergency mode.
Wow.
Every cell is squandering all of its energy for the threat or danger in its outer world. So keep that up for a period of time. There's no energy to heal. There's no energy to create. There's no energy for long-term building projects in the body, because when you're living in emergency, it's not a time to create. So the body begins to break down. So breaking that conditioning process and having a person sit with themselves for a period of time, where they're not thinking about their cell phone or their TikTok or their social media or their texts, and they get beyond all the people in their life, all the things that they have to think about, all the places they need to go. If they could quiet down their brain and stop thinking in that way, after a period of time, their biology begins to change, and they naturally no longer activate those same hormonal centers that make them feel those emotions. And if they inhibit that, energy actually naturally moves into their heart. It just goes right up in there, and the heart's the creative center. And the heart, the moment energy moves into the heart, it starts beating orderly instead of disorderly. When it's in stress, it's resentment, impatience, it's beating disorderly. Now the heart can beat. Now it's got energy, and it begins to inform the brain. It resets the baseline in the chemical brain, the limbic brain. It tells the brain that trauma's over. Its past is over. And it tells the brain to create. Stop living in survival now, start creating. And the person starts thinking in different brainwave patterns. They're naturally creative. Turns out if you do that for a period of time, you can upregulate genes, just like you downregulated genes from feeling those other emotions. Trade those emotions for those elevated emotions, and you actually change your gene expression ahead of the environment. And if the environment signals the gene, and it does, and the end product of an experience in an environment is an emotion, and you're feeling that emotion, you're signaling genes ahead of your environment. And the body's literally changing in that moment. Do that for 7 days, and your body will look like it's living in a whole new environment.
Wow.
That's what our data shows.
Got dogs over here.
I'm excited too.
Who let the dogs out? I like it. Who let the dogs out? Who? We've got a few more minutes, but I want to share. We're going to share a video in a moment of the research that you've done and a documentary that you have in a moment. But there's one or two final questions that I have.
I'll keep them short.
Yeah. How many of you, just raise your hand if you're a parent. Raise your hand if you're a parent. How much does our energy, either our thoughts and our energy, affect the genetic imprint of our children's as they grow up? Just our energy and way of being, our thinking, our words. How much of an imprint does it really have?
Whoa.
If we are living in that survival mode, stress, anxious, resentment, frustration, thinking?
Yeah.
Which I still don't know how much time in a day you're allowed to have that. How much percentage? Is it 10% of the day? Is it 50%?
It's whatever you want.
Right, exactly. But, where you can still be abundant, how much of us feeling stressed and anxious and, we're running late. We don't have the money. Your father, your mother. How much of that actually really hurts our kids in the world? It's just a layup question for you.
I think parenting is the fast track to enlightenment. I really do. And children have mirror neurons. And mirror neurons are empathy neurons. You can say to your kids, stop being an emotional basket case. And they'll observe your behavior. They observe behavior. And mirror neurons actually emulate behavior. They model behavior. So then, if you're telling your 1-year-old while it's running around the house, stop that, once it starts walking, don't do that, and put that down. And they turn 2, you're going to say something to them, and they're going to say, no. They learned that from you.
Yeah.
A lioness who's teaching her cubs to hunt, she doesn't say, okay, I got a game plan, huddle up, you go this way, you this. Doesn't do that. She says, watch me. And those cubs are already bonded to her, and she's stealth, and she's patient, and she's watching. And the cubs, the neurons in their brain that are firing are the same neurons in the mother. The mother's priming their brain for the behavior.
Wow.
Through mirror neurons, and they will behave that way. And children, the very first 6 or 7 years of their life, their brain waves are in very low brainwave states, delta and theta and low-level alpha, and there's no editor. There's no door between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. All the information that they're getting in is getting in unedited. It's big boys don't cry, little girls should be seen and not heard, whatever that is, you understand. That's the information that's going in that's actually programming them into certain beliefs about themselves and about reality. And so when a child is observing a person living in stress and living in survival, they will in time begin to produce the same emotions that are created from watching their parents go through the same trauma, the same event or perception of life in itself. And so then now it takes a little work for that person then to make the change either on their own or when the family changes. And so then when one person can change in the family, it allows other people to change in the family.
Yes.
You don't have to go back into your life and say, you need to be less addicted to emotions, and you need to stop signaling the same genes in the same way. You need to stop making your heart incoherent. You know, that's not good for you. That's not what people need. They need for you to show up as the example.
Yes.
You got to walk into your life back from this event in the state of greatness. And whatever that model is for you, you got to show them what it looks like. I guarantee you, you do that. They'll want to know what you know. The teaching is not what you're saying any longer. It's who you are, right? Something's different. And so with children, they are the fast track to enlightenment, and they model behaviors. So if you want to teach your kids how to be more emotionally intelligent, which I think is the best thing you can teach them, how to shorten their emotional responses to certain people and certain things, teach them that by doing it with them. By doing it with them, I guarantee you'll have a buddy for life.
Wow.
So in three-dimensional reality, our senses plug us into that reality. Take away your sight, take away your hearing, take away your smell, take away your taste, take away your feeling with your body. You would have no experience of three-dimensional reality, but yet it could still exist. But you're unaware of it.